The name says it all really. Smack bang in the middle of America is the Mid-America Intercollegiate Athletics Association. Let's check out their football stadiums. Audrey Walton Stadium, Central Missouri Mules. There's actually another Audrey Walton Stadium elsewhere in Missouri. She's the wife of one of the Walmart founders, who made a large donation that went towards the building of this grandstand here, which was much needed because the old stand was deemed to be no longer safe. I'm sure they didn't exclusively use products purchased from Walmart to build it, but from what I've heard, you probably could. I think most people do their weekly milk, bread, Twinkies and rebar shopping at Walmart. Anyway, we've got off to a good start. I like this stadium. Chad Richison Stadium, Central Oklahoma Broncos. Due to the way they spell Broncos, B-R-O-N-C-H-O-S, I assumed it was referring to bronchos, the ponchos that are specifically designed for wild horses. But of course that product doesn't actually exist. Oh wow. Walmart, I'm impressed. The stadium was recently given some major upgrades thanks to a donation by, you guessed it, Chad Richison. The capacity was increased slightly, however the best addition in my opinion is this magnificent man-made waterfall behind the southern end zone, which is reminiscent of Angel Stadium. Not bad at all for a Div 2 school. Francis Welch Stadium, Emporia State Hornets. This is somewhat similar to the first one in the way that the seating sits upon an earthen horseshoe of sorts, but this stadium does have a couple of features that help it stand out a bit more. It has a lot more stonework throughout, including a perimeter fence which is quite aesthetically pleasing. Other than that, I do also appreciate the golden running track, much better than the standard burgundy, and also like the hits of honeycomb at the end zones, which is even less common. Dwight Reed Stadium, Lincoln Blue Tigers. After over 40 years in this conference, 2023 will be the last season in the MIAA for the Blue Tigers. At 5,500, this stadium has one of the smallest capacities in the conference, which isn't all that surprising given that it's the only stadium we've seen that has just the one stand. And that one and only stand is pretty bland. There's nothing but exposed concrete and metal benches, leaving it looking kinda grey. But you know, it does the job. Lewis Field Stadium. Sorry, I thought it was Lewis Field for a second. Fort Hays State Tigers. They are loving their stonemasonry in this part of the country. This too has a rather nice stone fence surrounding the stadium, but also the facades themselves are made of stone. It's not all Stone Age tech, however. They recently installed this video board at the northern end. The stadium is actually situated on a street called Elm Street, so you can almost guarantee that over the course of its history, after a visiting team has been absolutely thumped here at the stadium, I'm sure there have been numerous local papers back home that have put "A Nightmare on Elm Street" in big writing on the back page. They love a bit of wordplay. Fred Hughes Stadium, Missouri Southern Lions. This place has a nice blend of old and new, simple and complex, natural and artificial. For the most part, the seating barely rises above ground level, and there's bench seating throughout, so they've kept it pretty basic there. Then over to the north, you've got this flashy field house, where some spectators can even watch from up on the Davidson Terrace, where you are quite far from the field, but you're also directly facing the video board, so swings and roundabouts. Spratt Stadium, Missouri Western Griffins. You're actually seeing images of this stadium from a few years back, which is apparent because over recent years this venue has received numerous upgrades. The main stand's capacity has been beefed up, it's also been given some superficial renovations, and similar to the last one, they've added a small section of seating behind one of the end zones. This time it's the Bill Snyder Pavilion, which is not attached to a field house. I think this place is also winning the Video Board Award. Not only is it the biggest in Division 2, but the structure that it's attached to looks pretty cool as well. Ron and Carol Cope Stadium, Nebraska County Lopers. We've seen plenty of stone so far, but the exterior here is more reflective of a typical college football stadium. It's all about that red brick. And rather than a stone fence surrounding the field, we have a Lopers branded mesh fence, so that's just as good, I suppose. Maybe not quite as prestigious, but go team. It's the only stadium in the conference that has an actual end zone stand. Not that that's a particularly important feature for a stadium to include. Wadley Stadium, Northeastern State Riverhawks. This is probably the most bare-bones stadium in the conference, and I mean that literally. The big stands have no facades to speak of. Just the framework, aka the bones of the stadium on show. And there's nothing resembling landscaping throughout the stadium, like we've seen elsewhere. There is a huge disparity between the main stand and its eastern counterpart in both amenities and even more so in terms of size. So the view from up here is rather expansive. Not that there's much to see other than trees. Bearcat Stadium, Northwest Missouri State Bearcats. Having opened in 1917, this is the oldest continuously used stadium in Division 2. They've been playing on the field itself since 1913, before the actual stadium was built 4 years later. Of course, both of the stands that we see today are more recent additions. And I'm not 100% sure, but I don't believe that video board is a 1917 model. I think it came slightly later. Owing to its history, the school likes to call their stadium the crown jewel of the MIAA. However, I'm not sure it's the best in the conference. Carnie Smith Stadium, Pittsburgh State Gorillas. Finally, a football team that's named after an animal that might actually be good at football. You know, with the right training and the promise of bananas, you can make it happen. But really, the Pitt State Gorillas don't need actual gorillas to help them win. In the nearly 100 years that they've played here, they've won nearly 75% of their games here. As you can see, the exterior is kinda reflective of its old age. In a good way, I mean. Not a dilapidated structure that can cause you harm, but an antiquated structure that has a lot of charm. Oh, and I love how they call this the Jungletron, 'cause gorillas and that. Yager Stadium at Moore Bowl, Washburn Ichabods. Washburn does sound like something that occurs when you've set the washing machine temperature too high or something, but actually the school is named after Ichabod Washburn, which is even more weird when you think about it. That's like a team being called the Washington Georges or the Edison Thomases. But it's unique. Due to the fact there was already a natural depression on the side of Moore Bowl, it only cost them $30,000 to construct, although in today's money it'll be a little less than $500,000. Still cheap, still cheap. It is a simple stadium, but I think it has the best grass berm that we've seen. It's even got the stadium's name written down, so you don't forget. So there you have it. As always, I'll pick a favourite. It was a toss-up between Spratt and Richison, and I've gone with Richison for man-made waterfall-related reasons. Consider subscribing if you're new, and as always, thanks for watching. Have a good one.